Divine transformation of Ephraim and Manasseh, discovering God's miraculous plan for a nation. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, a great famine ravaged the land of Canaan, while Egypt flourished under the providence of Joseph, the favored son of Jacob, whom many believed had been lost. Amid the thriving crops and grain silos, Jacob dwelled in the humble shelter of Goshen, where the golden sun cast a warm glow upon the weary face of the patriarch. The weight of his years hung heavy upon him, his heart stirred with anticipation and trepidation as he prepared to bless his grandsons, Ephraim and Manasseh. Having endured a life steeped in struggle, loss, and the relentless hand of God, Jacob's spirit shone with the depth of faith that helped bridge his trials. As Jacob sat, frail yet formidable, he called for Joseph and his sons. The air thickened with unspoken significance. It was a moment pregnant with divine intent and familial expectation. Jacob's summons was not merely a family gathering, but an act of covenant intimately echoing the blessings conferred upon grandfather Abraham and father Isaac. Gazing at Ephraim and Manasseh, he sensed the weight of his legacy pressing upon him, a mingling of joy and sorrow swelling in his heart. In the time-honored customs of their people, the firstborn would typically receive the right hand of blessing. But, with unwavering intent, Jacob lifted his right hand toward Ephraim, the younger boy, while his left gently rested on Manasseh. Tension crackled in the space. Joseph, watching closely, felt a stir of confusion rise within him. "Not so, my father," he implored, his voice a quiet quake against the established order, his pleading eyes searching for correction. Yet, Jacob stood resolute, anchored in the wisdom that surpassed human understanding, his gaze piercing and fierce. "Indeed, Manasseh shall be great," Jacob announced, twinkling eyes illuminating with the spark of prophecy. "But Ephraim shall be greater than he, his descendants shall become a multitude of nations." Instantly, the gravity of the moment enveloped them, as if time itself paused to embrace the weight of the divine declaration. Jacob's blessing extended beyond mere familial ties. It revealed a glimpse into a grander narrative woven by the Almighty, one that spoke of nations and peoples drawn into the tapestry of his promise. As Jacob's hands rested upon the boys and mingled, a profound stillness enveloped the room. Ephraim and Manasseh stood at the precipice of their destinies, receiving not just a blessing, but a portal into God's timeline, where human expectations paled against the sovereign choice of the divine. Questions danced within the hearts of the boys. How could the younger triumph over the elder? Does God truly work through the unexpected? Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now, let's continue with what the Lord did next. The air hung heavy with a divine charge, where Jacob's proclamation sparked wonderment and curiosity. What lay ahead for Ephraim and Manasseh entwined in the greater story of redemption? How would they embrace the mysteries of God's promises fulfilled? Their hearts, innocent yet attuned to the sacred, awaited a revelation only the Lord could unveil, a reminder that within the fabric of his grand plan, every thread mattered, even when the order seemed perplexing. And as Jacob's hand settled upon the boys, the atmosphere shifted, suffused with a holy anticipation. Joseph observed, awestruck, as the blessing cascaded over Ephraim and Manasseh like a radiant light illuminating the path of their futures. The hearts of the young boys trembled with a mixture of wonder and apprehension. The air was thick with the fragrance of the covenant held tightly in the patriarch's heart, echoing ancient promises to their forefathers. "May the God before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac walked, the God who has been my shepherd all my life long to this day," Jacob prayed with a voice that resonated deep, "bless these lads. And may my name be named upon them, and the names of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and may they grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth." Genesis 48 verses 15 to 16. In that sacred moment, the future unfolded before them like a scroll revealing divine destinies. Ephraim felt a surge of spirit within him, awakening a strength he could scarcely understand, while Manasseh grasped the importance of his birthright, although it was to be overshadowed by his brother's favor. The sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the faces gathered around, a sign of the days to come that would hold trials of faith for their lineage. Yet unbeknownst to them, in the shadows of the future lay the struggle of a nation. As years turned like the cycles of the moon, Jacob would be no mere sepulchre of memory, he would become a living legacy. As Joseph returned to his work, the words of Jacob lingered, wrapped in tender majesty. Through the throes of famine, God's plans would take root not just in grain-filled silos but in hearts prepared to receive his guiding hand amid uncertainty. Days turned into years as the tides of the world shifted. Under Joseph's stewardship, Egypt thrived, however, back in Canaan, Jacob's family contended with hardship. The famine deepened its grip, and rumors spread like whispers carried by the wind, whispers of a great leader risen in Egypt, a man who could ration grain and orchestrate survival amid despair. And thus, the families of Canaan looked southward, hearts steeled with desperation. One fateful day, Jacob's voice rose above the sorrowful murmurs of his sons. "Why do you look at one another?" he scandalized, deep lines marring his weathered face. "I have heard that there is grain in Egypt. Go down and buy for us there, that we may live and not die." Genesis 42 verses 1-2. The brothers, their hearts heavy with the weight of gratitude and fear, prepared to embark upon a journey that would not only alter their destinies but revive a promise long embedded in the heart of God. As they ventured toward Egypt, apprehension mingled with the hope of sustenance. Would they find grain enough to sustain their family? Or had fate cast them into the hands of a brother they betrayed? The path ahead was shrouded in divine mystery, redemption tinged with the bittersweet recollections of Joseph's betrayal. Little did they know that God was weaving their story into the tapestry of salvation, a grand rehearsal of grace waiting to unfold like blossom in spring. Yet, even amidst their trials, a question pulsed in the hearts of each brother, echoing through time and space: how would God orchestrate forgiveness amidst profound wrongs? Soon, they would discover what they had failed to fathom: how their motives could find a purpose far greater than their understanding, for the mercy of the Almighty ever embraced the broken and weary, crafting beauty from ashes. And thus, even while the journey began, the hand of God quietly prepared a table of reunion in the presence of their enemies, turning the bitter into sweet, a testament that his plans were far beyond their human reckoning. What further wonders might emerge from this divine encounter? For what they had known was merely a fragment, while God held the whole, awaiting the perfect moment to unveil his sovereign purpose. As twilight descended upon the land, Jacob's sons made their way with heavy hearts toward Egypt. They moved in silence, each burdened by their past actions and the uncertainty that lay ahead. The dusty path stretched before them, a metaphor for the journey of their lives, fraught with trials unspoken and sins unconfessed. "Behold, we go to our brother," Reuben, the eldest among them, murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "Will he not remember the evil we did to him?" The brothers exchanged uneasy glances, the weight of memory pulling them deeper into despair. In the palace of Pharaoh's steward, Joseph had ascended to a place of great power, a position entrusted to him by divine providence. Clothed in fine linen and adorned with signs of authority, he stood as a beacon of hope for a nation teetering on the brink of famine. Yet amidst his success, his heart ached with the unhealed wounds of betrayal. Each day, he scanned the faces in the crowd for a glimpse of the brothers who had cast him away into darkness. When the brothers entered the city, their eyes fell upon the grand hall where grain was shelved in abundance. Anxiety fluttered in their hearts as they approached Joseph. Unbeknownst to them, he recognized them immediately, but they remained oblivious to the majesty and anguish woven into the man before them. "What brings you to Egypt?" Joseph inquired, his voice steady, though internally a storm conceived. He discerned their fear as they trembled, fearing that their secrets lay bare beneath his piercing gaze. "Sir, we are but humble servants from the land of Canaan. We have come to buy food," Judah replied, his voice quaking, devoid of the assurance of a leader. The memory of their wrongs flooded over him like a dark cloud, pressing against his spirit. Joseph's heart swelled with the bittersweet recollection of his own journey, the intersection of betrayal and grace. "You are spies," you have come to see the nakedness of the land." As he spoke, he watched their faces pale, the guilt enveloping them anew. "No," they cried, "we are 12 brothers, the sons of one man in Canaan. Our youngest is with our father, and one is no more." Little did they know that the man they pleaded with was their brother Joseph, whom they had sold for 20 shekels of silver. And in that moment, a profound inner conflict churned within Joseph. His heart longed for reunion, yet the scars of his past remained fresh. "I will test your words," he proclaimed, and their fates were sealed in the court of divine appointment. Days passed as they were held in suspense, and during their confinement, the brothers could not escape the guilt that plagued their hearts. "God has found out our iniquity," they lamented to one another. "We are being punished for our sin against our brother." The echoes of their confession reverberated against the stone walls, and Joseph, hidden behind a veil of authority, wept silently. He realized that the shackles of their past were being broken in these moments of vulnerability. God was sowing a seed of repentance that would yield a harvest of grace. Yet as the brothers sought favor, a divine revelation awaited. Joseph would soon unveil the true purpose behind their gathering in Egypt, a sacred orchestration leading not merely to survival, but to restoration. As the sun set and shadows danced upon the walls, Joseph prepared to reveal his true identity. Would he extend mercy or enact justice? The air vibrated with the tension of the moment, as all heaven stood poised to witness the unfolding of God's sovereign plan, a plan that would knit the fabric of redemption tighter with every thread of grace. What transformation awaited this family fractured by betrayal? Little did they know that through forgiveness, God would pave the path toward restoration, guiding them back to a profound prophetic destiny. The time had come for hearts to be mended, for a nation to be born anew, revealing God's unending faithfulness across the tapestry of history. As the candlelight flickered and the air grew thick with anticipation, Joseph summoned his brothers to him, the weight of his heart pressing heavily upon his chest. Standing before them, he felt the trembling storm of emotions surge within, a blend of love, loss, and longing. The echoes of their past deeds reverberated in his mind like whispered confessions, yet hope glimmered like a distant star through the darkness of betrayal. "Come near to me," he commanded, his voice ringing with authority yet tinged with an underlying tenderness. The brothers hesitated for a moment, eyes wide with fear, but they stepped closer, hearts racing and spirits trembling. "I am Joseph," he revealed, words flowing forth as a dam bursting its confines, "your brother, whom you sold into Egypt." Silence enveloped the chamber, a heavy shroud, as truth struck them with the force of an arrow. Instinctively, they recoiled, their faces a portrait of terror and disbelief. "Do not be afraid," he continued, seeing their anguish, "for God sent me before you to preserve life." In that sacred moment, Joseph's heart became a bridge spanning the chasm of their past. He spoke of God's plan woven through their actions, unveiling how the very betrayal they enacted, God had used for good, as it was foretold to him in his dreams. The tapestry of divine purpose began to unfold, a narrative built upon the foundation of predestined mercy. 2 years of famine have now come upon the land, Joseph declared, a poignant urgency in his voice, and there are yet 5 years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvest. God has sent me ahead of you to ensure your survival and the survival of many. In his words, the brothers began to see the fruits of God's providence, the fulfillment of his covenant promises. The gravity of their plight pressed down upon them still, yet a breath of hope emerged amidst their fears. "Bring your father to me," Joseph instructed, "and I will provide for you all." A promise that reverberated not only through the hearts of his brothers but also to the very core of Jacob, the patriarch whom they had wronged. As Joseph embraced them, tears flowed freely, tears of sorrow mingled with joy, the past collided with the present in a divine embrace of reconciliation. The siblings who had once turned away from him now stood transformed, caught in the overwhelming current of grace. "We are your servants," they offered humbly, casting aside their pride, the burdens of envy and treachery now laid bare. In the warmth of Joseph's forgiveness, the walls they had built crumbled, and familial love began to mend the fissures of their brokenness. "Do not be distressed," Joseph comforted, his voice steady and full of faith, "for you intended it for evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring about this present result. In that sacred exchange, something miraculous began to occur. The brothers previously consumed by guilt now found themselves not just as reclaimers of mercy but as instruments of God's unyielding purpose. The stage was set, and they would become the vessels through which a nation would arise, a generation defined by divine favor. Yet as the brothers departed in haste, laden with provisions and new hope, Joseph lingered in contemplation. He felt the weight of destiny upon his shoulders, for hidden in the threads of their story lay a greater narrative, a promise of deliverance that would echo through generations, speaking of a future where many would be called to witness the sovereign hand of God working through the trials of humanity. Little did they yet understand that the journey had just begun. For even now, the flickering shadows whispered of another plan unfolding. The time was drawing near when a nation would emerge, shaped by trials and triumphs, and through whom God's glory would shine brightly in the earth. The echoes of promise resounded, divinely crafted, leading to the miraculous revelation yet to come. And the brothers returned to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan, bearing the good news that they had encountered Joseph, who ruled over all the land of Egypt. They spoke to him, saying, "Joseph is alive. And he is governor over all the land of Egypt." Their words pierced the heart of Jacob, for he found it hard to believe them. The memory of his beloved son weighed heavily upon him, like a shadow that could not be dispelled. Yet, as they relayed all that Joseph had said to them, and showed him the carts that Joseph had sent to carry him, the spirit of Jacob their father revived. He exclaimed, "It is enough. Joseph my son is still alive. I will go and see him before I die." So Jacob set out with all his sons and their households, journeying toward Egypt. As they traveled, the Almighty spoke to Jacob in a vision of the night, saying, "Jacob, Jacob." And he answered, "Here I am." Then God said, "I am God, the God of your father. Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for there I will make of you a great nation." With renewed faith, Jacob continued his journey. Upon arriving in Egypt, the moment Joseph saw his father, he could not restrain himself. He ran to him and embraced him, weeping upon his neck for a long time. The tears flowed freely as joy wrapped around them like a warm cloak against the chill of years apart. "Now let me die," Jacob said, "since I have seen your face and know that you are still alive." But Joseph said to his father, "I will provide for you and your family. You shall dwell in the best of the land." And he brought his father and brothers into the presence of Pharaoh, and Jacob blessed Pharaoh, saying, "The days of my pilgrimage are 130 years. In the land of Goshen, Joseph settled his father and brothers, providing them with fertile pastures. There, they multiplied and became exceedingly prosperous, as God had promised. And Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years, numbering his days with gratitude and reverence for the wonders of the Lord. As Jacob neared the end of his journey on earth, he called for Joseph and said, "If I have found favor in your sight, do not bury me in Egypt. Let me lie with my fathers." And Joseph wept as he bowed over his father's face, recognizing the depth of their bond, now fortified by forgiveness. In that sacred moment, Jacob revealed his heart's desire concerning his sons. He pronounced blessings upon Ephraim and Manasseh, the sons of Joseph, declaring that they would be as his own sons. "Let my name be named upon them," he proclaimed, "and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth." As he blessed them, Joseph witnessed a divine transition. His father crossed his hands, placing his right hand on Ephraim, the younger, and his left hand on Manasseh. Joseph protested, "Not so, my father. For Manasseh is the firstborn, put your right hand on his head." But Jacob replied, "I know, my son, I know. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. Nevertheless, the younger brother shall be greater than he, and his offspring shall become a multitude of nations." With these words, Jacob foretold a truth that would resonate through generations, a prophecy of blessing that spoke to the very heart of God's plan for Israel and the nations. Amidst the gathering of the brothers, the Spirit stirred a mighty expectation, for what eyes could not see was being unveiled, a nation in the making, a destiny in the divine tapestry. Thus, the family prospered in the land of Egypt, yet a greater story was unfolding, one that would lead them out of bondage and into a promise unfulfilled. God's sovereign plan was taking shape, whispering of deliverance yet to come, shaping a people chosen to bear witness to his greatness. And so the family of Jacob multiplied greatly. But lurking beneath the surface, the sands of time whispered ominously, stirring the hearts of both men and angels. The stage was set for deliverance, and through trials not yet seen, God's covenant faithfulness would begin to bloom like flowers breaking through the frost of winter. For the time would come when a great deliverer would arise and the world would be changed forever. And it came to pass, after many days, that Jacob fell sick and his time drew near. He gathered his sons about him, for he desired to bless them and impart the words of wisdom that the Lord had given him. With a voice both shaky and strong, he began with Reuben, the firstborn, and spoke, "Reuben, you are my firstborn, the might of my strength and the beginning of my vigor. You must not excel, for you went up to your father's bed. You defiled it, he went up to my couch." The brothers looked on in awe, for Jacob's words bore weight. Each blessing unfolded as a tapestry of promise and prophecy, revealing the paths their futures would take. He spoke of Simeon and Levi, saying, "Cursed be their anger, for it is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel." As Jacob's voice became weary, he now turned to Judah. "Judah, you are he whom your brothers shall praise, your hand shall be on the neck of your enemies, your father's children shall bow down before you." A hush fell upon the gathering, for they understood that his words signified the royal line from which would come the Messiah. The blessings continued, each one a heavenly whisper carried through the ages. "Zebulun shall dwell by the haven of the sea, he shall become a haven for ships," he proclaimed. "Issachar is a strong donkey, lying down between two burdens." With every son, Jacob spoke, revealing their destiny woven in God's sovereign plan, fulfilling the promises made to Abraham, Isaac, and to him. The air thickened with divine anticipation as he neared the climax of his pronouncement. Ephraim and Manasseh, the sons of Joseph. Joseph is a fruitful bough by a well, his branches run over the wall, Jacob began, his eyes glistening with the kindness of God's mercies. The archers have bitterly grieved him, they shot at him and hated him. But his bow remained in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty God of Jacob. At that moment, Jacob crossed his hands again, placing his right hand on the head of Ephraim and his left on the head of Manasseh. Joseph, witnessing this, was filled with both honor and alarm. "Not so, my father. For this one is the firstborn, put your right hand on his head." But Jacob would not be swayed. "I know, my son, I know. He also shall become a people, and he too shall be great. But truly, his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his descendants shall become a multitude of nations." And so, the spirit of prophecy swept over Jacob, and he revealed in his last breaths the unbreakable covenant God had established with his chosen. His heart, though breaking, held the assurance that God's promises would bring forth a nation. When he finished speaking, he drew his feet into his bed and breathed his last, gathering into his people, as his sons closed their eyes and wept, knowing deep that the path before them was fraught with uncertainty yet firmly in the hands of God. In that divine moment, the weight of legacy hung like a cloud, boding transformative events to come. For a new chapter awaited, a call to exodus, liberation, and the formation of a people bound not by chains but by the covenant love of the Almighty. The stage was being set for a glorious deliverance, and that which had been foretold would soon be unveiled. For God's plan was not merely to lead them out of Egypt but to lead them into his promise, a greater revelation of his power, of his grace, and a testament that all nations would bow to his will. What awaited them in the wilderness beckoned with the cry of freedom, echoing deep in the hearts of those who followed him. And it came to pass after the lamentation of Jacob had ceased that his sons took counsel together, still clothed in sorrow and uncertainty. They gathered in the tent, voices low and hearts heavy, overshadowed by the profound implications of their father's final blessings. The air was filled with questions, both spoken and unspoken, as they pondered their destinies and the future of their father's lineage. Joseph, deeply troubled yet steadfast, stood among his brothers. "What shall we do now that our father has departed from us?" he asked, the weight of responsibility upon his shoulders. He spoke great truths, and yet the shadow of our past looms large. Ephraim and Manasseh have much to inherit, their paths are already set by the hands of our father. Then Judah spoke, his voice rising with conviction amid the murmurs. "Let us not forget the promise given to our grandfather Abraham and to our father Isaac. We must seek the Lord, for he has spoken through Jacob's lips, and surely, he will direct our steps." As the sun dipped low in the sky, the brothers fell to their knees in prayer, seeking divine guidance for the tumult of their spirits. They beseeched the Lord, "O God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, show us thy way, for our hearts are troubled. Lead us to understand the blessings spoken over us, a heritage of promise in our time of grief." In that sacred silence, a rustle arose, and the Spirit of the Lord moved among them. An unseen presence settled upon them, igniting their hearts with fire. A vision unfolded before their eyes, not only the tribes of Israel emerging from their father's blessing but a greater purpose that through them, a light would shine across the nations. Then the voice of the Lord came forth, soft yet commanding. "Fear not, O sons of Jacob, for what has been decreed shall come to pass. Ephraim shall be a multitude, and Manasseh shall also arise. From their loins a nation shall spring forth, a mighty host that will declare my glory." With this revelation, hope surged anew in the hearts of the brethren. They rose to their feet, emboldened by the divine promise they had received. "We shall honor our father's memory by fulfilling the destiny laid before us," exclaimed Reuben, gripping his brother's shoulders with fervor. In time, they prepared Jacob's body for burial in the land which had been promised to Abraham, their grandfather. As they journeyed back to the land of Canaan, the air was electric with anticipation. The blessings of the Lord, they felt, were not mere words, they were a living testament to the covenant established long ago, a promise intertwined with their very existence. Yet, as they laid Jacob in the tomb, a shadow swept through their hearts. An echo of doubt lingered. Will we remain united in these trials? Will we fulfill such great promise amidst the challenges that lie ahead? But even amid doubt, the Spirit of the Lord continued to stir. In the quiet of the evening, there arose a whisper borne on the wind, "The time has come for a new beginning, a divine transformation is set in motion. Trust, for I am with you. What will come will display my mighty hand in a way that will be remembered through all generations." Thus it was declared amongst them, a miracle awaited, a path yet to be revealed that would culminate in the redemption not only of their line but for all people who would call upon the name of the Lord. And so, they resolved to abide in faith, for they understood, as the sands of the sea cannot be counted, nor the stars numbered, so shall the children of Ephraim and Manasseh be. Little did they know that soon, the very Pharaoh himself would stand witness to the rising tide of a nation destined to encounter the greatness of their God. And it came to pass, after they had mourned Jacob, that Joseph commanded his brothers, saying, "Let us gather together, for we must prepare our hearts to stand before Pharaoh. There is no time to lament further, for a great destiny awaits us." Therefore, they traveled to Egypt, the land filled with wonders but also shadows. As they approached the gates of the city, they were filled with trepidation, yet hopeful remembrance of their father's blessings lingered like a fragrant offering in their souls. Each brother bore the weight of their heritage, reflecting on how the words of Jacob echoed in their hearts. When they entered the presence of Pharaoh, he looked upon Joseph with favor, recognizing his wisdom and integrity. Then Joseph introduced his brothers, saying, "These are my brethren, the sons of Jacob, come to dwell in this land. They are shepherds, for their trade has been in the flocks." Pharaoh observed the brothers, keenly aware of the disdain in which Egyptians held the shepherding class. "Speak, O sons of Jacob," Pharaoh commanded, his voice resonating with authority. "What is it that thou desirest in my land?" Judah, emboldened by the promise of God stirring within him, took a step forward and replied, "We seek refuge in the land of Egypt, for the famine in Canaan is grievous. Allow us to dwell in the land of Goshen, that we may thrive and our families increase." Pharaoh, moved by their plight and the spirit that rested upon Joseph, responded, I shall grant you that which you seek. The land of Goshen is fertile and suitable for your flocks. He paused, eyeing them with curiosity. But take heed, your well-being is my concern. You shall tend my own herds, for this land shall prosper by your hands. Thus, a bond between Pharaoh and the sons of Jacob was forged, a divine orchestration that would lead to the fulfillment of the promise made to their forefathers. Joseph, with wisdom imparted by God, assured his brothers, "It is the Lord who directs our path. We shall thrive here in Goshen, and the promise of my father shall manifest through us." In those days, their families multiplied, and the blessings of the Lord were evident. As the years passed, the children of Ephraim and Manasseh began to increase beyond measure, becoming strong and numerous, as Jacob's words had foretold. Yet, even as they prospered, a new Pharaoh arose who knew not Joseph. Fear crept into the hearts of the people of Egypt as they beheld the Israelites growing in strength. "What if these wanderers rise against us?" they murmured amongst themselves, igniting suspicion and darkness in the land. As the days turned into years, the brothers were consumed by the uncertainty of their future. They sought the Lord in fervent prayer, pleading for his guidance in their plight. "O God of our fathers, you who led us into this land, grant us wisdom amidst the shadow of fear. Have you brought us here to perish at the hand of Pharaoh?" And the Lord spoke to them in the stillness of the night. "Fear not, for my covenant stands firm. I shall deliver you, and through the trials, you will be refined as silver in the fires. Trust that your legacy shall not be forgotten, for I am raising a deliverer from among you." Thus it was revealed in whispers of hope, the plan of God unfurling like the dawn over the horizon. They did not yet know that through suffering would come liberation, and the descendants of Jacob would be woven into the tapestry of covenant redemption, uniting nations under his mighty hand. And as the brothers pondered these things, the air thick with divine anticipation, they understood that the echoes of Jacob's blessing would resound not just in the land of Canaan, but throughout all generations. For the path ahead was fraught with challenges, yet they remained steadfast, waiting for the unfolding of God's sovereign plan, one that would shake heaven and earth, revealing a greater story yet to be written. And it came to pass that the years rolled onward, and the children of Israel flourished in the land of Goshen, their numbers swelling like a mighty river. The promise of God was manifest, as the descendants of Jacob grew into a nation. They tended to the flocks of Pharaoh and cultivated the fertile fields, their labor blessed abundantly. Yet, in the midst of their prosperity, darkness began to envelop the hearts of Egypt. The new Pharaoh, consumed with fear of the growing strength of the Israelites, devised plans that would lead them into bondage. He summoned his advisers, speaking in hushed tones of treachery, "Let us put taskmasters over them, lest they multiply further and turn against us in war. We shall make them serve with rigor, and they shall know our might." Thus, the Israelites were pressed into servitude, their burdens becoming heavy as iron. The whips of the taskmasters cracked upon their backs, and their cries of anguish rose to heaven. In their sorrow, they remembered the words of Joseph, and the legacy of their father Jacob, yet hope began to wane. As the Israelites toiled under the weight of oppression, their hearts echoed, "O Lord, have you forgotten us? Can our cries not reach your ear? When shall you redeem your people and fulfill your promise?" They cried out, and their lament stirred the depths of heaven. And the Lord's voice came to them again, strong like thunder yet tender as a mother's embrace. "Behold, I have seen the affliction of my people. I have heard their cries, and I remember my covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Behold, I shall send a deliverer to lead you forth from this yoke of bondage." In an obscure corner of Egypt, a child was born to Amram and Jochebed of the house of Levi. They named him Moses, for they believed he would be drawn from the water, and great things were whispered of his future. Hidden from the edict of Pharaoh, who sought to extinguish the male children of Israel, Moses grew in wisdom and stature, the hand of God shaping him for the divine purpose upon his life. Years passed, and Moses fled from the fury of Pharaoh, taking refuge in Midian. While keeping watch over the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, it came to pass that he beheld a burning bush that was not consumed. Approaching with holy wonder, the voice of the Almighty called to him, "Moses, Moses. Remove your sandals, for the place upon which you stand is holy ground." Moses trembled with fear, and the Lord spoke, "I have come down to deliver my people from the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up to a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey." With his heart pounding, Moses responded, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt?" And the Lord assured him, "Certainly, I will be with you." In that moment, a divine spark ignited in Moses, a calling redolent with promise. The plan of God, which had lain hidden through generations of suffering, was now unfurling with incredible awe. And in that sacred hour, as heaven witnessed the unfolding of destiny, the stage was set for deliverance. The very chains that bound the Israelites would soon be shattered by the sovereign hands of God. Yet, even as hope arose, darkness lingered. What trials awaited the children of Israel before they would embrace freedom? The questions lingered, and the path ahead remained veiled in mystery, but one truth echoed through the hearts of the faithful: God was at work, and he would reveal his mighty hand in the fullness of time. Thus began the journey of redemption, a saga that would echo through the ages, calling forth deliverance that would transcend nations and generations. In the fullness of time, the cries of the Israelites enveloped the heavens, ascending like incense before the Lord. For generations, they had suffered under the heavy hand of oppression, yet their faith remained a flickering flame amidst the gathering darkness. The memories of Jacob's blessings and Joseph's dreams echoed in their hearts, whispering of hope and deliverance. And in their agony, God was moving, weaving a narrative that would reshape the destiny of nations. Moses, the chosen deliverer, stood before Pharaoh, the heart of Egypt hardened by pride and fear. With each word, a clash of wills unfolded, divine purpose waging war against human arrogance. "Let my people go," Moses proclaimed, his voice trembling yet resolute, "that they may hold a feast to me in the wilderness." The Pharaoh scoffed, dismissing God's command as folly, yet unbeknownst to him, the hand of God was preparing for a mighty showdown that would leave an indelible mark upon history. As the days stretched long, plagues befell the land of Egypt, a symphony of divine judgments designed to pierce the heart of this great empire. The waters turned to blood, frogs filled the land, and darkness descended like a shroud. Yet amidst the chaos, the children of Israel remained under the protective shadow of the Almighty. The Passover came, a sacred night marked by the blood of the Lamb upon their doorposts, a sign that they were set apart for salvation. As midnight cascaded through Egypt, a wail arose, echoing in every home. The firstborn of Egypt lay silent, while the children of Israel rejoiced, their faith rewarded. And in the wake of that fateful night, Pharaoh's heart broke. He summoned Moses and the children of Israel, exclaiming, "Go, serve the Lord." The moment was electric with divine significance, for deliverance was no longer a distant dream, it had burst forth into reality. Gathering their families and possessions, the Israelites departed in haste, the weight of bondage cast aside as they ventured into the unknown. Yet behind them, the heavy footsteps of an angry Pharaoh pursued them, fueled by regret and vengeance. The Lord parted the waters of the Red Sea, granting his people passage on dry ground, while chaos engulfed their pursuers. As the sea swallowed Pharaoh's army, the Israelites emerged upon the shores of freedom, astonished by the might of God's deliverance. They sang a song of triumph, a melody that would resonate through generations, a testimony of hope and liberation. "Who is like you, O Lord, among the gods? Who is like you, glorious in holiness, fearful in praises, doing wonders?" they proclaimed in jubilant worship, their voices a chorus of newfound faith and gratitude. 40 years in the wilderness awaited them, a journey of transformation where faith would be tested and hearts refined. God provided manna from heaven, water from the rock, and his presence led them as a cloud by day and fire by night. Each step further into the wilderness was a step deeper into his covenant promises, forging a nation bound by faith. And as the time drew near for them to enter the promised land, Moses gathered the people and recounted their journey, the miraculous works of God, the steadfastness of his presence, the unfolding of his promises fulfilled. He reminded them of the blessings that were pronounced on Ephraim and Manasseh, a reminder that God's purposes would extend beyond their time into eternity. "Be strong and courageous, do not be afraid, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you," he declared, a charge to face the future with unwavering faith. As Moses breathed his last upon the peaks of Nebo, the mantle of leadership passed to Joshua, who would lead the Israelites into battle and possession of the land. "Today I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses," he echoed, invoking the legacy that had begun with their forefathers. Thus, the tribes of Israel settled in the land promised to their ancestors, Ephraim and Manasseh becoming great nations, their descendants fulfilling the divine decree. Through trials and triumphs, victories and defeats, God remained faithful to his covenant. As they flourished, they were reminded that their story was not merely one of conquest but a narrative woven into the very heart of God's redemptive plan for all humanity. Brothers and sisters, as we conclude this sacred journey through the transformation of Ephraim and Manasseh, consider how God is weaving your life into his greater narrative. Just as he transformed a family into a nation, he desires to work through you, breathing purpose and promise into your journey. Subscribe immediately to our channel, so you won't miss the next powerful biblical stories that inspire faith and transform lives. Leave a like now to help spread God's word through the algorithm, amplifying his truth. Your comments are cherished. Please share your spiritual reflections and let us know how this biblical story impacted your faith. And remember, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth. Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony. Only true believers understand the importance of supporting biblical content through these actions to reach more souls for Christ.